What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today we continue our 2021 NFL season preview series and we talk about the New York Jets. This is going to be a fun one. I've been looking forward to this. The final team that we talk about in the AFC East. If you missed the other three videos, definitely go back on the channel and check them out. Today we talk about the Jets. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you do, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more sports content like this, we're actually really close to 100 subs as well. There's going to be a giveaway on the channel, $25 gift card. So if you want part of that, want more sports content, please consider subscribing. And comment all your thoughts about the New York Jets down in the comment section. I respond to every comment. I'd love to have this conversation with you. Anything that's on the screen, let's talk about it. Let's go ahead and get into it. Win range 3 to 8 wins, and you can see my projected win total 3 wins. And when I did that video predicting, teams' records and the playoffs and whatnot a couple weeks ago, the Jets were definitely a team that, like the Indianapolis Colts, I recognized I was low on. But sometimes it's hard to find the games that you like them matching up against with other teams. So obviously I'm definitely at the low part of that win range, but realistically, I could see Zach Wilson getting hot right away, Robert Saleh turning that culture around, shades of Ron Rivera last year in Washington, where he was able to get everything gelled together pretty quickly. And if Saleh can have that effect, he's obviously already an energetic guy. There's definitely a pathway for this team to win 8 games, go 8-9, be in and around the playoff hunt. And I mean, what holds them back maybe from getting that 8-win spot or maybe even getting into the playoffs is that division, right? I have the AFC East getting 3 teams in, the Jets being the lone one out. So that definitely works against them. But, anywhere between 3 and 8 wins is the widest range we have. But, that should be expected. First time NFL head coach in Robert Saleh. First time offensive coordinator in Mike LaFleur. Rookie quarterback coming from a small school. There's going to be a lot of growing pains. I think there's going to be games where the Jets look really good. Like, they beat teams that they have no business beating in a lot of ways when it comes to, looking at their rosters on paper. But then there's going to be games where they look like a team with a rookie quarterback, first-time head coach, all the same things I just talked about. So, definitely some growing pains. I also really worry about this team's defense, right? You spend money on Carl Lawson. I think he has upside as a pass rusher, and he's only 26 years old, so he is still improving. Quinn Williams is already a really good player, and I think he takes a year 3 leap into elite status this upcoming season. I almost had him as one of the X factors, but I already see him as a really good player as is, and I think he gets that much better this upcoming season. But, outside of the pass rush worries there, linebacking position, we'll talk about CJ Mosley here in a little bit. What is he like after pretty much not playing the last 2 years? Jarrad Davis, is he going to remember how to play football? He was really exciting coming out of Florida, but did not work with the Lions, though. Matt Patricia didn't have a whole lot of players that really looked good underneath him and his tenure with Detroit. And then that team's secondary, right? Like Bryce Hall, who we'll talk about later, is someone I like, but he's a 5th-round corner. He's your CB1. That's a red flag. Whether you like the team or not, that's a concerning note. So a combination of not a whole lot of for sure pass rush that this team will generate and a weak secondary, though Robert Saleh's scheme will be able to hide that. Those all kind of add up to what looks to be one of the weaker defenses in the NFL. That said, let's say they rip off 5-6 wins this year and they have a couple of first-round picks next year, one of their own, one of Seattle's. And my way too early 2022 mock draft had him going pass rusher and corner. Corners don't typically make big leaps in year 1, but the addition of a first-round corner and a first-round edge rush next draft on top of what they might be able to do in free agency, they'll have a lot of money and cap room to spend. This team, I think, is about a year or 2 away from being potential playoff contenders. So, obviously, if you're a Jets fan, you have to like where you are. The foundation is being built, and it's in a solid place to start. So, let's go ahead and talk about a realistic goal here. Be competitive. I go back to Joe Judge's first season with the Giants, where even the games they lost, they just weren't getting embarrassed, right? They were playing a lot of one-score games, and they were giving teams a run for their money till the very end. That's what I want to see from the Jets, and I think that's a realistic expectation, right? You probably won't beat the Pats twice this year. You might end up losing to them twice, but let's say you lose by 3 points in the first time you guys meet and 7 the next. That's a step in the right direction against a playoff caliber team. And same thing for Buffalo and Miami in that regard. And then the rest of this schedule, a big game against Carolina to start the season. How do they look against a team I think they can beat up on? So those are the things I want to see them be competitive, but also there's only a couple teams that I definitely think the Jets are better than, and I want to see them take advantage and win those matchups. So obviously, that's easy to say rather than do, but I think this team can be competitive. And I think that's the first step in a rebuild process. You get it right with the head coach, you find your QB, Now go out there and give teams a run for their money. Play a full 60 minutes worth of football. Reach goal, and if you're unfamiliar with that term, this will be the last time I really mentioned this in a video. It's like applying for a job. You have a couple jobs you apply to, and you can get it. You meet the requirements, and then you have a reach job that you apply to that you don't have the years of college experience maybe, or real life experience, I should say, or whatever the case may be. You're probably not exactly what they're looking for, but you send it anyways. So the reach goal here, finish above 500. And you know what? I mean, honestly, if there's a pathway for them to win 8 games, there's a little bit narrow of a pathway, but still, regardless, a pathway for them to win 9, and that would be up and above 500. So I don't see it as likely, but hey, it's a reach goal for a reason. Maybe they can get up and over 500 this season. Certainly got a lot of talent on the offensive side of the football, which leads us into our X factors, and he's the guy in the picture, Denzel Mims. Down the stretch last year, we saw flashes. We saw what made him a guy that went in the second round in a loaded wide receiver class in the 2019 draft, behind guys like Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb and Henry Ruggs. Mims looked pretty solid, and he has that big body, downfield build to him, and that's what I want to see. Now he's got a quarterback that's going to throw the deep balls. Darnold can, but Wilson wants to, right? Like, there's a difference between you can, and that's what you're trying to do. And Wilson wants to make plays. He's great when the play breaks down and going off script, so I think that all builds into why I think Mims can put together a wide receiver 1 type of campaign this upcoming year, right? They add Corey Davis. They get him on a modest contract, though, and Corey Davis is good. And I should say, this wide receiving core is better, but it's still not great. It's one of those things where when you compare it to a couple years ago with Rashad Perriman and, not a whole lot else really working with Sam Darnold. Now this team actually has, legit wide receivers who you could see playing for an NFL team. So obviously it's a step up, but don't know who's going to be elite yet. So I think Mims is the most likely to make that leap forward. And if he does, it creates an awesome QB wide receiver duo. Zach Wilson throwing the deep ball for Denzel Mims. That will quickly become like must-see television, or like you got to go on Twitter to see that highlight play. You know what I'm saying? So definitely like the upside for Mims. He's definitely an X factor on the offensive side of the ball. Now we'll transition to the defense, and 2 guys that I think are going to have to play really well if this team wants to get to that, that 8-win mark, maybe flirt with being over 500, their reach goal. CJ Mosley. When we last really saw him on the field a lot in Baltimore, he played well enough to earn a big contract. Now, 5 years, $85 million, probably a bit of an overpay, and I'm sure the Jets, if they had an opportunity, they would take it back. But regardless, you understood why they gave him that big deal, and that was the same offseason they paid Le'Veon Bell. So, kind of a tough summer to be a Jets fan, in my opinion. But Mosley has the talent, and he is an athletic guy. So I'm not saying he's going to be Fred Warner. I don't think he's as athletic as Fred Warner. If anything, Jarrad Davis is a little closer to that. But CJ Mosley is just a better football player. He's a better tackler. He's better at the line of scrimmage. He can do more in coverage. At least he's more polished in coverage than Jarrad Davis. Jarrad Davis is just a really good athlete that kind of runs around, at least at this point in his career, but I don't think he's been properly coached up, so that definitely could change under Robert Saleh. But I think it's more likely that Mosley emerges as a guy who maybe isn't worth, $15 million a year or whatever they're paying him, but he proves to be a, Pro Bowl level guy. I could see Mosley racking up 100 tackles, double digits tackles for loss, maybe a couple sacks, 2 interceptions, a couple forced fumbles, fumble coverage, whatever. And he become a guy that people look at and say, hey, that's a Pro Bowl caliber season. Let's put him in. Let's send him there. So I think Mosley could have a bounce back season. He still probably won't be worth the money the Jets are paying him, but given how important a middle linebacker is going to be for Robert Saleh and his defensive philosophy, CJ Mosley makes the most sense to be the guy who fills that void and could potentially get back to where we last saw him, getting significant playing time, I should say, with Baltimore. And if he plays like that, that's a pretty solid inside linebacker. Overpaid, but still pretty solid. And last but not least, Bryce Hall. And he was a guy that, before his last season at Virginia, was considered a first-round corner. And obviously, these things change, right? Like this past draft, it was Paulson Adebo who comes to mind. Or, Shaun Wade's an even better example. Guys who were in the first-round conversation preseason, and then, season doesn't go their way and they fall down the board. And that was kind of what happened to Bryce Hall, but his was largely due to injuries compared to someone like Shaun Wade, who we just saw can't play on the outside. So he's relegated to playing in and around a safety role, or he has to play the nickel, or however Baltimore plans on using him. Now you look at Bryce Hall. Ideally, he's healthy. And if he's healthy and a cover 3 defense, I think that's like the right fit for him. He has the size. He is a good enough athlete. And I think Robert Saleh's defense also allows for corners' weaknesses to be hidden a little bit, so that elevates what Hall may look like. That's not to say that, you know, good corners haven't played in that cover 3 defense, you know, I love Richard Sherman, but I'm not saying Hall's going to be Sherman, but I think he can be worthy of being a starting corner. But it comes down to situations where you've heard me talk about the Dallas Cowboys a lot. Trevon Diggs is a good corner. I think he's a high-end CB2, not a CB1. And there is a variation right there. And I think Bryce Hall, especially in this defense, could be a quality starting corner, but I don't know about CB1. But hey, you could definitely prove me wrong. And like I said, Robert Saleh could turn, you know, his career trajectory around really quick. But even after Hall, this team needs some cornerback depth big time. I don't think they get Sherman, but that door is still open, though I know he wants to play on the West Coast. But between Dallas and the Jets, it feels like those are the teams that need him the most and would be the most willing to give him a 2-year deal that he's looking for. So we'll see. And if they get him, then I think Hall's a really solid CB2 in the making. So that could definitely change the trajectory of this team for this upcoming season. Let's talk about some of these games to watch real quick, then we'll wrap it up. Week 1 at Carolina, so you have a road game. What does this team look like right away? And obviously a matchup between Sam Darnold and his former team. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's one of those matchups where, like, on paper, Jets, Panthers, meh. But when you add that context to it, it actually becomes a game I'm really looking forward to. So I want to see how this team looks on the road. Obviously, it's week 1. You have a lot of time to game plan for that game. So it's not like a true road contest where you're going, you know, from one week to the next. But regardless, get an opportunity to see this team away from New York. And how do they fare against Sam Darnold? Also, how does Sam Darnold look in a new offense, new situation, all that fun stuff. Fast forward to week 8 against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are a team I think could potentially be better than, like, you know, 3-4 wins or whatever I had them at in my season predictions. Their over-unders at 6.5. I would still go under, but there are plenty of people betting the over. And that's because of the confidence that people have in the Cincinnati Bengals offense. But at home, I think this is a game the Jets definitely can win. And regardless of the outcome, these are two teams with pretty bad defenses. And it's Joe Burrow versus Zach Wilson. 3 great wide receivers in Cincy. 3 pretty solid ones no matter what in New York, whether you're calling it Mims, Davis, and Crowder, or Mims, Davis, and Elijah Moore, which that's the long-term core, right? That's going to be a game with a ton of points, and it's going to be a really fun shootout to watch. So regardless of how it turns out, that's a game I'm watching for the offense. And then week 16 against Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, number 1 versus number 2 picks in this last year's draft. That I'm not going to call it Jets Jags game, must see TV, but for where these two teams are, that's as big as must see as it's been for a while for these two teams. So I'm really looking forward to that matchup. Another game at home, and it's another game I think the Jets can and maybe should win since they are at home. But let me hear your thoughts about the New York Jets down in the comments section. Where am I wrong on this projections? You know, do I have their wins too low? Probably. Who are some X factors that I didn't mention? And what are some of the games that you're looking forward to watching this team play? Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more sports content like this, please consider subscribing. That's it for the video. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej. I'm signing off.